Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2505 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. In today's Wisdom Nugget, we'll continue our exploration through Psalm 34, focusing on verses 8 through 14. This section of the psalm is a powerful call to taste and see God's goodness, to live in the fear of the Lord, and to pursue peace. David's words remind us that a life centered on God brings joy and purpose. It is an invitation to experience God deeply and to live a life marked with goodness, integrity, and reverence. Let's begin by reading Psalm 34, verses 8 through 14 together from the New Living Translation. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, the joys for those who take refuge in Him. Fear the Lord, you, His godly people. For those who fear Him will have all they need. Even strong young lions sometimes go hungry, but those who trust in the Lord will lack no good thing. Come, my children, listen to me, and I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Does anyone want to live a life that is long and prosperous? Then keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Turn away from evil and do good. Search for peace and work to maintain it. David opens this passage with a warm invitation. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, the joys for those who take refuge in Him. This is one of the most memorable verses in the psalm, inviting us to experience God's goodness personally. To taste suggests a direct encounter, not just hearing about God or observing Him from afar. David invites us to engage with God, to experience His goodness firsthand, much like savoring a delicious meal. It's an invitation to come close, to test and know for ourselves that God is truly good. The second part of the verse speaks of joy that comes from taking refuge in God. When we choose to rely on Him, to find safety and shelter in His presence, we experience peace and joy that cannot be found elsewhere. God offers stability and a deep sense of well-being in a chaotic and uncertain world. David is saying, come and find out for yourself. See that God is trustworthy, loving, and a true source of joy. This verse challenges us to move beyond our mere knowledge about God to a personal encounter with Him. It is a reminder that our faith isn't just intellectual, it's experiential. Our lives are transformed when we truly taste and see God's goodness. In verse 9, David continues, Fear the Lord, you, His godly people, for those who fear Him will have all they need. Here David speaks of His godly people, those who have chosen to follow Him and honor Him. To fear the Lord doesn't mean to live in terror, but to live with reverence, respect, and awe of God. It means recognizing His greatness, His authority, and our dependence in Him. When we fear God, we place Him in the highest places in our lives, acknowledging His sovereignty over all things. David assures us that those who live in the reverence for God will have all they need. This doesn't imply that we'll always have everything we want, but that God will meet our true needs. It is a promise for provision and sufficiency. God is attentive to our needs and those who honor Him. In verse 10, David reinforces this idea with a vivid comparison. Even strong young lions sometimes go hungry, but those who trust in the Lord will lack no good thing. Lions, especially young ones, represent strength, power, and self-sufficiency, yet even they experience hunger and lack. In contrast, those who trust in God are promised that they will lack no good thing. This doesn't mean that life will be without challenges, but it does mean that God will ensure we have what we truly need. These verses encourage us to live in faith, trusting God knows and will provide what is best for us. David's words remind us that true provision comes from God in a world that often pressures us to rely on ourselves or amass wealth and security. When we place our needs before Him, He is faithful in providing in ways that surpass our understanding. In verse 11, David shifts to a more instructional tone, saying, Come, my children, and listen to me. I will teach you to fear the Lord. Here David speaks as a teacher or mentor, encouraging us to learn what it means to fear the Lord. He addresses us with warmth and care, inviting us to approach God with reverence, humility, and a desire to honor Him. David understands that fearing God doesn't come naturally. It's something that we learn and grow into as we draw closer to Him. Verse 12 poses a question to grab our attention. Does anyone want to live a life that is long and prosperous? David is appealing to our natural desire to have a good and meaningful life. This isn't a selfish wish. It's about living a fulfilling life that honors God and brings us joy and peace. David connects the desire for a good life with fearing God, showing that the key to true prosperity lies in living in a life aligned with God's ways. David's approach here reminds us that fearing God isn't about restrictions, but flourishing. It's about understanding that God's principles are given to us not to limit us, but to lead us into a life of purpose, joy, and peace. When we learn to honor God, our lives naturally align with His will, which brings us true fulfillment. In verses 13 and 14, David gets practical about what it means to fear the Lord. Then keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Turn away from evil and do good. Search for peace and work to maintain it. These verses provide us clear guidance on living a life that reflects our reverence for God. David addresses two areas, our speech and our actions. First, David instructs us to keep our tongue from speaking evil and our lips from telling lies. Our words hold great power. They can build others up or tear them down, bringing healing or harm. David encourages us to use speech with care and integrity. We must guard our words to honor God, ensuring they align with truth, kindness, and respect. Honesty and integrity are the marks of a life that honors God. Next, David says, turn away from evil and do good. This is a call to action that urges us to actively reject wrongdoing and pursue what is right. Living in reverence for God isn't passive. It involves making choices that reflect His goodness and righteousness. We are called to distance ourselves from evil and intentionally seek ways to do good. Finally, David tells us to search for peace and work to maintain it. Peace is a precious gift that often requires effort to establish and protect. David urges us to pursue peace in our relationships, to be intentional about resolving conflicts, and to be peacemakers in a world that often leans toward division and discord. These verses show us that fearing God is a daily practical commitment. It shapes how we speak, act, and relate to others. When we honor God with our words, actions, and pursuit of peace, we live in a way that reflects His love and goodness to those around us. Psalm 34 verses 8 through 14 is a powerful call to experience God deeply and to live out our faith in a way that reflects His goodness. David invites us to taste and see the Lord's goodness, assuring us that the life centered on God is a life that is filled with provision, peace, and purpose. He teaches us that true fulfillment doesn't come from self-sufficiency, but from a reverent, humble relationship with God. David's words are challenging us to live with integrity, to guard our words, and to seek peace in all that we do. When we embrace this way of life, we draw closer to God and become vessels of His love and grace to the world around us. So as we go about our day, let's take David's invitation to heart. Let's choose to taste and see God's goodness in our lives. Let's commit to living with reverence, honesty, and peace. May we find joy and purpose in knowing and honoring God, and may our lives reflect His love to all who we encounter. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Psalm 34. Until the next time, may God's wisdom guide your steps. May His love fill your heart with peace. And if you found this podcast insightful, subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along with us tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, creating a legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. And as we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.